Okay, I wasn't going to do any more of these until this podcast room is done, which some more stuff actually got taken care of today. It'll definitely be done by the end of the year, and I was really going to wait just because there's so many things going on and so many changes coming. All very good stuff, but there's just so many moving parts. I just didn't really have a ton of time to put into this right now, and things will change drastically first part of the year. But there's this subject that just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up, and I feel like there's certain things that happen that, I believe it's God, but you can call it the universe, the world, the higher power, whatever you want to call it, kind of pokes me on the shoulder and kind of says, hey, we need to touch on this, somebody needs to hear this. So the thing that keeps coming up is the word choice. It's a big word in the addiction world. Choice. Everything. The usage. Is it a disease, not a disease? Is it a choice, not a choice? Like, choice is just a touchy subject in the addiction world. And today I was meeting with one of my business partners with this treatment center we're going to be opening up. And we were talking about a few things and some of the stuff we want to do with this center, and had to go over, some of the specifics on setting certain things up. And the choice word came up again. And, he's a business partner of mine. He looks at addiction very similar to how I do, or the exact same as I do. And there's been a couple people at work who have mentioned to me, your next podcast, we need to talk about choices and addiction. And I've gotten a couple messages online, and it just is a touchy subject right now, and there's a lot of people who have different views on that. So I'm going to give you my 2 cents. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to tell you why, and I hope this helps somebody. But my whole concept or opinion on choices and disease and all of that fun stuff is one, I don't think addiction is a disease by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't. You can't convince me it is. I know there's a lot of people who truly believe that. I know that there's a lot of addiction services or rehabilitation services that base it off of a disease, and if it helps you, great. One of the most powerful things I ever had said to me in regards to sobriety or recovery or any of those things was, somebody once told me, sobriety is like getting to Disneyland. As long as you get there, who cares how you got there? And that's true. As long as you get sober, and I don't care if it's a 12-step, I don't care if it's on your own, I don't care if it's you and a family member in a cabin, I don't care if I don't care what it is. Whatever that looks like, that's all that I care about, is I just want you to get sober. Now, with that said, the whole disease, not a disease thing, I think that addiction is a culmination of bad choices. And I think that you make those choices to mask or hide or run from something. There's something in an addict's life that they do not want to deal with. Could be just life, could be the real world, could be things that have happened in the past, could be a million different things. Literally could be a million different things. Could be something going on right now in their life that they're just they're afraid to deal with, they can't take on head on, they're scared of, and they mask it with whatever that substance is. Could be a drink, could be a drug, could be a million different things. And those choices lead to addiction, in my opinion. Now, with that said, I think that there are certain people who are susceptible to addiction. I think some people have a gene in them, or if you follow me or read anything that I ever post, I talk about that thing all the time. I think that thing is what causes people to become addicts. I think that thing is a blessing. I think it's a huge blessing. I think it's the biggest blessing you'll ever have in your life. But I think people in active addiction are using that to their demise. They're using that in a very bad way. And if you do the work on yourself, if you are willing to walk through that healing process, which very few people are, that healing process is ugly. It's super tough. You have to get so honest with yourself, and you have to get so real with yourself, and you have to address things that you don't want to address. It's not a pretty time in your life. And I think chalking addiction up to a disease is just a little bit of a cop-out. I think that, it's okay, you have a disease, is just a little bit of a cop-out. And I think that's why the relapse rates and stuff are escalating. I think that's why, they don't have the best luck in some of those programs, and I think it's because it's a cop-out, and you're giving a cop-out to somebody who's a master at coming up with cop-outs and excuses and ways to dodge ownership and ways to manipulate things. And that's what an addict is, man. We've mastered all of those things. That's what we do. So the whole disease thing is just a little bit too easy of a brush off or a sidestep or a way to avoid it, in my opinion. I think that some people, again, are much more susceptible to it, but I think that thing in them that makes them more susceptible to it is that same thing that can give them anything they set their mind to in life. A determined addict, I say this all the time, but a determined addict is unstoppable. If an addict sets their mind to something, you're not stopping them, period, end of story. I've referenced the homeless guy who supports a $300 a day habit. Very few people could figure that out. That addict does it every day in, day out, wakes up that morning, not a dollar to his name, but he will figure out a way to get his $300 to support his habit, period, end of story, no exceptions. He will do whatever he has to do. When normal people don't think there's a way, an addict just works around it. They go up, they go around, they go behind it, they go underneath it. They figure out a way to get around whatever roadblock is in front of them. They just do. But again, a determined addict is unstoppable. So that's why I say that thing in people who are prone to addiction can be the best thing in their life. I think that thing can be used in their benefit in a very amazing way if they allow it to be. Now, to get to the point of being able to use it in a good way, that's the difficult part. And again, to walk through that, one, it takes a long time. It's not a quick fix at all. I was clean for probably 12 to 14 months before I really started working on myself. The first year was just hell. My bones hurt, my nose would run. Again, like I've said a million times, I couldn't eat without going to the bathroom. I hurt to just walk. Like literally everything in me hurt. I was also an emotional wreck. I had been masking all my feelings with opiates for decades. And now all of a sudden everything makes me emotional, literally everything. And so you kind of have to get your bearings in life. You kind of have to readjust to feelings, things, both physically and emotionally and mentally. And then once you kind of start getting your bearings, which in my opinion takes 12 to 14 months, then you're ready to start actually doing some work. And boy, I tell you what, those next couple years 2 and 3 of me being clean were by far some of the hardest years of my life. That's where I made the most changes too. Obviously I got clean and sober and that changed me, but I really spent those years owning things. I owned my mistakes, I owned who I was, I owned the addiction I had formed, I owned why I had that addiction, I owned everything. I owned everything in my life. I owned how I looked physically, I owned how I felt physically, I owned what I did every day, I owned what time I woke up, I owned businesses, I owned everything, just goals. I really took a step back and analyzed my life in all areas and got very honest with myself, very real with myself. And that's not an easy thing to do. In fact, that's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do as a human being is take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and understand that wherever you are in life, you're there 100% because of yourself, and truly owning that, not coming up with some bullshit excuse that I have a disease, or my mommy and daddy didn't love me, or I saw things as a kid nobody should ever see, or I don't have a degree, or I don't have a this, or whatever bullshit excuses you want to come up with. None of that. Just true ownership. No excuses, no BS. Just you look yourself in the mirror and acknowledge and accept that you are exactly where you're at because of you. And once you do that, there's a freedom that comes with that, and there's a realness that comes with that, and very few people are willing to do that. And that's I think the key to being able to use your thing in a good way. I think you have to own all areas of your life and truly understand what you've been masking, what you've been hiding, what you've been running from in your active use, and heal that part of you. I held myself very accountable with my relationships with family, my relationships with God, my relationships in general. I held myself very accountable with just literally every area of my life, and didn't happen overnight. It took a long time, but just slowly started making improvements and game planning. And you know, when I quit using pills, I stopped talking about things and started doing things. It was the first time in my life. I was in my late 30s, and it was the first time I wasn't just all talk. I wasn't completely full of shit. I stopped talking completely. I wasn't telling anybody anything I was doing. Prior to that, all I did was talk about what I was going to do and didn't do shit. But again, it's a journey, it's a process, and it's still going on for me. I mean, it's still going on. I never worry about using it again. I never worry about any of that. But every day I hold myself accountable. Every day, you know, I have a routine. Every day I hold myself to that routine. Am I perfect? No. Are there times where I come home from work and I'm supposed to do A, B, and C, and I just go relax and watch some TV? Yeah, that happens. I'm not a robot. I'm human. But as opposed to that happening 99% of the time, that happens 1% of the time now. Very rarely do I do that. Very rarely do I give in. I've become extremely disciplined. I've become extremely regimented. I've become extremely just, I do what I say I'm going to do. I've become a man of my word. That's cool for me to be able to say, because for years I couldn't say that. I couldn't. I would tell you that, but it wasn't true. And you know, it's cool to be able to say that. It really is. But you know, I hold myself very accountable. I'm very real with myself, and I know part of the reason I'm able to do that is because I have a purpose in life, and I didn't have one before. I used to tell my wife all the time, I feel like I'm here for a reason, but I don't know what that reason is. And I think a lot of people have that feeling. I think we're all special. We are all given unique abilities. We are all here for a purpose. And when you don't have that purpose or know that purpose, it's difficult. It's hard. And you know, my purpose is to change the way the world views addiction. That's why I'm here. You can't convince me otherwise. That is why I'm on this earth. That's why I did not overdose the dozen or so times I came really close. That's why I've done what I've done. When my feet hit the floor in the morning, that's the first thing that pops into my head is, you know, I've got to set an example for somebody. I've got to show somebody how they can do this. I have to do that every day. Every day. Every day I have to live my life in a way that somebody from the outside looking in can see and say, you know what, I can do that too. It's just discipline, it's just commitment, it's just a little bit of work, you know, that's all. There's nothing special about me. I have just understood who I am, and I'm willing to do what I need to do to keep moving forward. And, you know, it reminds me when I first started walking on a treadmill, actually kind of jogging. I started walking, it just hurt too bad, so I hated it. But when I started kind of jogging, one of the things I would use to motivate myself is I've only told one person this, two people this. I would picture myself running from who I was when I was on the treadmill. Who I had become when I was using, who I was, the kind of person I was. And on the treadmill, I would use that as motivation because I wanted to get away from that person. And I knew that was helping me do that. So I literally would picture myself running away from myself, if that makes any sense. That sounds kind of crazy when you say it out loud, but that's what I would do. And that was my motivation, to stay on the treadmill longer and longer and longer. And every time I would push it another 5 minutes or 15 minutes, I was getting that much further away from who I was. I had learned to hate that person that much. And don't get me wrong, I'm thankful I went through that phase of my life, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't. I wouldn't have this purpose, I wouldn't have this cause that I'm fighting for. But because I got so real with myself, and because I was so honest with myself, and because I was aware of all the horrible choices I had made, I had learned to hate that person. I hated who I was, and I wanted to get away from that. And so that was a big part of my motivation. But again, I owned everything, and I was aware that it was my choices that led me there. So, you know, again, to kind of bring it back to the whole choices topic, we all have choices in life every day. You know, Right now you have a choice to make a change in your life, start doing things that you've said you're going to do for a long time and never have, or make a choice to come up with an excuse and, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start next week. I'm going to start this big one right now is the first of the year. I'll start the first of the year. I hate the first of the year. Hate it with a passion. Because for about 5 days, my gym is insanely packed and it pisses me off. And it wouldn't piss me off if those people would stay there, but you know that 80% of those people, 95% of those people actually aren't going to stay there. They're just not. And it bothers me so much because it's not hard to stay there. And those people would feel so much better if they did stay there. And we're just so quick to come up with excuses and cop-outs. And I feel like the whole disease is an excuse and a cop-out. I think, again, this all comes back to choices and owning those choices. And that's the only way you really heal in addiction. That's the only way you really get better, is if you own everything. You have to own your choices. You have to own the things that you did that caused you to be where you're at right now, or where you were at. Those choices are what led you right there. You're right where you're at right now in life because of your choices. I'm sitting here today, right now, at this phase of my life because of choices I've made, both good and bad. Years and years and years of bad choices followed by several years of good choices, and here we are. Now I'm trying to help people not make the same bad choices I made for years. It's all choices and it's all ownership, and I believe in my heart that the sooner an addict can understand that, accept that, and own that, the sooner they can heal, the sooner they can get better. I truly believe that's a key part of getting clean. You have to own everything. You have to understand that it's your choices that have caused you to get to where you're at. Period, end of story. So that's my 2 cents on choices. Got some cool stuff in the works, guys. Really, really do. I'm super excited, super blessed, super thankful. I say this all the time, but this is so much bigger than me. This isn't me. It sounds weird saying that, but it's not. It's just not. Some of these doors that are opening, some of the people that are coming into my life, some of the people who reach out and, hey, I believe in what you're trying to do. I want to help you. It's so humbling. It's cool to sit back and watch, because unless you're me, you don't see all of it. But there is definitely a much higher power involved in this whole thing. And even now I have choices. There's times that this gets overwhelming for me. There's times that this gets scary for me. There's times that I don't think I'm the right person to do this. There's times that I don't know how in the world what's been placed on my heart is ever going to happen. I don't know anything about this world. I know nothing about this. I just have my personal story, and I have the way that I view addiction and addicts, and I have a real desire in my heart to reach people, because I spent so many years so embarrassed and so afraid and didn't feel like anybody would understand me. And I spent years using longer than I needed to. If I had somebody who I could have reached out to, or who I thought would understand what I was going through or feeling or dealing with, maybe it would have been a little bit different. I don't know, but again, that's irrelevant. I'm here now, and I'm very thankful. I do get scared, I do get nervous, but when that happens, I pray. I know that I'm not in this alone, and I appreciate the messages I get from people who message me, thanking me, letting me know how much I've helped them, letting me know how much they enjoy my writings or my posts, or it's funny, I get a lot of messages and stuff from people who I'm not even friends with or don't even follow me, and I get it, there's an embarrassment. That's why most people private message me and don't comment, don't say this, don't do that. I get it, but it's just, it's cool. You never know who you're impacting, or who you're touching, or who you're reaching. And, again, I just have to step out in faith and do what I feel I need to do, and let other things work themselves out, and, this will find who it needs to find. But if you're in active addiction right now, take a step back, understand that you're where you're at because of the choices you've made, and just own where you're at. And then you can start moving forward. But until you own where you're at and you accept responsibility for where you're at in life, nothing's going to change. It's just not. You can keep lying to yourself, you can keep bullshitting yourself, you can keep doing this vicious circle, but nothing is going to legitimately change until you truly own where you're at. That's just the fact. That's just not how we work as human beings. So own where you're at. If you or anybody you know needs any kind of help, that's why I do this, please reach out. Follow me on my social medias, Power Over Pills on Instagram and Facebook, Kyle.Stark01 on Instagram and Facebook. We have Instagram for I Fight Lifestyle. We are bringing back the whole I Fight line. This means so much to me. It's amazing how everything's kind of coming together. It really is, but it's, again, I'm not steering the ship. I'm not steering the ship. So please get on the I Fight Lifestyle Instagram page, message me some of the products you want, and I'll figure out a way to get it to you. The website for I Fight Lifestyle will be up this month. The podcast will be done for sure by the end of the year. We will do a couple first part of December, possibly the end of November, just kind of depends on everybody's schedule and what's going on and when this is all finished. But some cool stuff happening. Appreciate the support, appreciate the love, guys. I hope this finds who it needs to find. And again, you're where you're at because of your choices. It's that simple. Good, bad, or indifferent. You're right where you're at because of your choices.